Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here, and happy Valentine's Day to everybody. First of all, I want to thank all of my colleagues for their hard work, for the time they've spent putting this together. It's not quite as easy as you'd think, but we've done it, and so I want to thank you all very much for doing this. I've only been here a few weeks and been very disappointed with the partisanship in D.C. Everything we've done in the orientations, everything we've done, we've gone out of our way as a freshman class to work together, to socialize. If we are really going to solve the problems of our country, we've got to do it in a bipartisan manner. And I was happy to join the No Labels group. I'm happy to be a member of the New Dems group. And the reason I bring that up is because this is a group that's focused on solving problems, on working together. And that's what we're about. We put together a framework here. This isn't meant to be legislation. This is a framework. And we've made a commitment that we are going to continue to meet on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and talk about the issues that are pressing. This letter that we have brought to Speaker Boehner, Leader Pelosi, and President Obama has three main principles. Number one, it says this freshman class is going to work in a bipartisan manner. We're not the last Congress. That was the my way, the highway mentality. We want to work together. Number two, we want common sense solutions. We're not going to sit here and demagogue and blame other people. We're not going to blame President Bush, President Obama, whoever. There's plenty of blame to go around. There's plenty of problems. Let's focus on the solutions to those problems. And number three, we're here to go big. You know, I'm not working my tail off every day just to get reelected. I'm doing this because I think we can make a difference. And right now is the time to do it. If we work together in a bipartisan manner, I believe we can put our fiscal house back on the right track. But we've got to do it in a bipartisan manner and put everything on the table. So that's what we're here to do today. And again, thank you to all my colleagues, and I look forward to answering any questions. Thank you. I'd like to introduce my dear colleague and friend from North Carolina, Mr. Pittenger.
Thank you, Patrick. It's been great to get to know you the last few months. You know, we had a number of briefings together, probably 4 of them. We spent a week together each time, nearly. And at each of these times, there was a growing awareness as we would be apprised of the budget and where we're headed fiscally in our country, of what needed really to be done. On one occasion, while we were at Williamsburg, Peter Orszag, who of course was a budget advisor to President Obama, made it clear time and again in his presentation that we had to address the big issues on the table, and we could not just lay them aside. Medicare, Social Security, entitlement programs, they are relevant. They are the number one issue. And, you know, we hadn't been hearing that. We don't hear it today from the leadership. We need to be hearing it. And we're coming as freshmen to say, hey, as Congressman Murphy said, we're here for the big picture. We're here to fix the problem, not to kick it, not to try to explain it, not to avoid it, but to do what needs to be done for the American people and for our future. We do want to preserve those important elements that seniors count on, but at the same time, we recognize that the path we're headed on fiscally is truly unsustainable. And to that end, we have provided this framework. We've looked at other principles in there that would lead to economic growth that will surely be the major aspect to lead us out of the malaise we're in. We can't go down the road of Greece. And frankly, that's where we're headed today. And we are keenly aware of that. It's just unfortunate that we don't hear the importance of this being addressed to the American people right now. This is urgent. This isn't yesterday. It's today, and it has to be done today. So I'm grateful for all of us who joined together, this great team of people. I've gotten to know each of them well over the course of the last few months, and it's been a real privilege. But we're here for the same reasons. We're here to provide the American people a real commitment to our economic future. Thank you so much, and I'm going to call on each of our colleagues. They'll come just say a few remarks. Miss Annie, you come on up. Either way.
I'm happy to. Thank you very much. I'm just going to be very, very brief. Others have prepared remarks. Annie Custer from New Hampshire in the 2nd District. What the voters asked us to do on both sides of the aisle was to come together. They're tired of the partisanship, the bickering, and they want to see sensible solutions. And so I'm grateful to my colleague Patrick Murphy and to Mr. Pittenger for bringing us together in this, their leadership. And I'm really excited about the solutions that we can offer to this Congress. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Andy Barr. I represent Kentucky's 6th Congressional District, and I want to particularly single out and applaud my colleagues and friends, Congressman Murphy and Congressman Pittenger, for spearheading this bipartisan effort. And unfortunately, it seems these days a bit unprecedented to have members of different parties come together to really focus not on partisan agendas or ideology, but instead practical solutions to our nation's problems. And I really believe that we don't have a choice, that we live in a divided government in Washington, and we've got to do the hard work to come together to put aside partisan differences and focus on solutions for the American people. I come from the district that was once represented by Henry Clay, and Speaker Henry Clay, of course, was known as the Great Compromiser. And I believe that Henry Clay is a model for all of us here in the 113th Congress. Henry Clay was dedicated to a practical commitment to compromise, but that didn't mean that we have to compromise our core principles. It just means that we need to come together to focus on solutions, and we can do that. We're not here to suggest that we have all the solutions to our national debt crisis, but we are here to begin a conversation within our group, among our colleagues in Congress, and with the American people. Our conversation begins with our bipartisan declaration that Washington has a spending problem, and our constituents sent us up here to address that problem. We don't accept the false choice between reducing spending on the one hand and promoting economic growth on the other. We believe it's possible to work hard enough to set priorities and creatively solve the nation's problems. So with that, I thank you for including my colleagues. I thank them for including me in this hopeful enterprise. And I want to yield the microphone to my friend and colleague from Arizona, Congresswoman Sinema.
Thank you, Congressman Barr. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. I'm honored to join my esteemed colleagues on both sides of the aisle today. We stand not just with each other, but with the millions of Americans around the country and middle-class families that sent us to Washington to find solutions. It's our job as Congress, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans together, to work together to find a crucial middle ground that will take us back from the precipice of financial collapse. Hardworking Americans sent a very clear message when they elected the 113th Congress. We were sent to Washington with the duty to fix the most critical issues facing our generation. Americans and folks in my home state of Arizona need jobs. They need an economy, they need a national budget that works for them, and most importantly, they need a Congress that will restore their faith in leaders who go to work and fight for them. You know, a generation ago, Congress came together with one thought in mind. What can we do to help those who sent us here? Decades ago in my state, great statesmen, like congressional leaders Mo Udall and Barry Goldwater, on different sides of the aisle, put their partisan beliefs aside, and they took on their fight for Arizona. This is how we were able to make it through tough times, accomplish great things, and how we were remembered by history for serving communities. The group that stands here together today is committed to fighting for the American people and committed to fighting against stubborn gridlock. I'm hopeful that this freshman bipartisan group represents the first step towards a collaboration, ingenuity, and a return to statesmanship. Thank you. And I'd like to yield the podium to Congressman Kramer.
Thank you, and thank you, Robert and Patrick, as well, for your tremendous leadership. And I guess I would just like to say that I would hope that this exercise serves as more than just a statement of principles or framework, if you will, but I also hope it serves as a sense of encouragement to our colleagues, not only in our class that I'm so honored to be a part of, but also to the senior members, the leadership in this entire town and in this entire country. But I also hope it serves as a sense of encouragement to the citizens of our country, that this is a place where we are at work, that it is functional. And probably as I stand here and today, I hope that they see that we are people that care about each other. While we love our country, we love each other, and that relationships matter, and that if you're going to work together, having good relationships is a good place to start. So with that, thank you for the opportunity, and I yield the podium to my colleague from Arizona, Representative Kirkpatrick.
Good afternoon. Reaching across the aisle is how we get things done in Congress. In my previous term, I was able to get 7 bills passed into law, each one with bipartisan support, each one with a Republican co-sponsor. So I'm pleased to stand here today with my colleagues, Democrats and Republicans, who value this approach to leadership. Our constituents need us to stand up, solve problems, and get results. For example, today I'm joining with Republican Congressman Paul Gosar to announce major legislation to create jobs in Arizona. Some of you may know that Congressman Gosar is the man who unseated me in 2010. He's in a different district and I'm back in Congress. And you know what? We have differing views on a variety of issues, but we're able to find common ground on something that should never be a partisan issue: jobs. It's still all about jobs. I look forward to being part of this group here today as we work together on behalf of the American people. And I yield my time to Congressman Rice.
I am not Congressman Rice. But he is not here today. I'm going to step in his head. I'm Chris Stewart from Utah too. I'll be very brief. First, I'm honored to stand with this bipartisan group. I think it's important that we be here together and united. I think there's something different about this freshman class, and that is I believe that people sense, and I mean Americans sense, that this is a different time. That the problems we face have a much greater urgency than the problems that we faced 5 or 10 years ago or a generation ago. There is a sense that we're at a tipping point in our nation's history and that we need to have the courage to address these things. Our country has always been a compassionate nation. We have always supported and wanted to sustain and to give comfort and aid to those who truly need it. But there's nothing compassionate about allowing these social fabric and these social safety net to go into bankruptcy and to not to be able to provide the benefits that are so critical to so many people. My parents, who passed away, both of them in their 80s, relied upon Social Security and upon these other government entities in their retirement years. All of us want to create an environment where those programs can be sustained for not just ourselves, obviously, but for our children and our grandchildren. I think that that is what this effort is about today. And again, I'm so proud and so honored to be with my colleagues here in that. Thank you. And I have no idea who's going after me.
Eric Swalwell, 15th District of California. I want to just give you a genesis of how this happened. And we had a number of different orientations where we came together. And normally, when new classes come to Congress, you'll see an imbalance of heavily tilted toward Republicans or Democrats. And in this class, they're almost evenly divided. And I think that played a role in us coming together often at these orientation opportunities. And I think, one, we just like each other. We really have enjoyed each other's company. I got to credit Robert and Patrick for really calling on this, especially after the Harvard School orientation, where we heard from economists. And we heard from the right, from the left, and the center, and everyone said the same thing, which is, what you guys are doing right now, that's not working. And unless you change something, we are on this path of economic collapse. The fragile growth we're seeing right now in the home markets, the financial markets, will all fall down if Congress does not come together. And I think that's what brought us all together. And again, I have to credit Robert and Patrick for seizing on that. But it was really the time we spent together, the even balance of members in both classes that brought us together, and just this responsibility that during the campaign, we heard from the voters, and they wanted us to come together and work for economic growth and new jobs. And this first step is, a 1,000-mile journey begins with the first step, and I think this is a big one. So thank you to Robert and Patrick. Joe, Owen.
I'm Mark Meadows from North Carolina, and we had the honor yesterday of having the president in my district. And so one of the questions that we had was, with this great divide that we have out there, how are you going to come together and actually pass meaningful reform, save Medicare? And I was able to point to this group of people that are behind me here, and knowing that not only did we sign a letter, what we did was made a commitment to truly try to work together, and the sincerity of my colleagues has been echoed over and over again. What I've found is that they were trying to help us with some of the language to make sure that we could sell it to our colleagues, and we were trying to help them with some of the language so they could sell it to their colleagues. And that's what we need to do. It is time that we quit finger pointing, where I go back to the district and say, well, I can blame it on the other party. And it's time that we step up for the hardworking American taxpayers and make sure that we return this country to fiscal responsibility. Thanks so much.
Grace, do you want to go?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Grace Meng from New York District 6. I want to thank my colleagues, Congress members Murphy and Pittenger, for their wonderful efforts on this bipartisan project. I actually come from a rather overwhelmingly Democratic district. But the one thing that we all have in common, each and every one of us here today, and that was elected in the 113th Congress, is that our constituents, both Democrats and Republicans, are tired of the gridlock that they've been seeing and witnessing in Congress. And so there's, every time I talk to my constituents, I tell them oftentimes about the wonderful new freshman class, about the great Republican and Democratic freshman members, and how willing and how hopeful we all are to work together. And I think we're getting so good at it that a lobbyist even said to me yesterday, you guys are saying it so much, I actually am starting to believe you. And so, during the campaign, each and every one of our campaigns, we heard from the American voters, and we heard that they don't care who we're pointing fingers at. They don't care about this blame game. They just want us to do our job and to help the community. It's like when I have a 5-year-old and when he gets into trouble at school, I don't care who started the fight or who started the argument. I just want them to see them get along and do what they're supposed to do. And so the same rule applies for us Congress members. So thank you so much for this wonderful effort, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Let me do this. We didn't leave Spanish for last. I got here last. So, but I want to just say right off the top, right? This is about fixing problems, and I think there's no democratic way to paint a wall or Republican paint a wall. You just got to paint it. And 98% of problems in the world are things that you need to do, and you need to do them. And what we have to do is work together. With that, I want to say a few words in Spanish, maybe put together what we did. I quiero dar las gracias a Patricio y a Roberto por sus esfuerzos, ¿no? Estamos trabajando juntos porque nos conocemos y apreciamos el concepto de proteger a nuestra nación. Los problemas que este país tiene son grandes, pero la primera manera de resolverlos es empezar a trabajar en conjunto. La clase de novatos que todos componemos, nos sentimos orgullosos, que tenemos buenas relaciones entre nosotros, y pensamos que trabajando juntos podemos resolver los grandes problemas que este país enfrenta. Como dijo uno de mis colegas, el camino de 1000 millas empieza con el primer paso. Y hoy estamos aquí tomando ese primer paso. Hemos enmarcado las posiciones nuestras en un documento que todos firmamos. Nos sentimos cómodos de eso y queremos seguir trabajando. Sabemos que el resto de la nación sabe que estos problemas hay que resolverlos, y nosotros pensamos llevar este mensaje al resto del cuerpo, al presidente, a los líderes de la Cámara de Representantes y al Senado. Hay que empezar a resolver estos problemas, y gracias por estar aquí. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm the guy who speaks Spanish. No, my name is Joe Garcia, and I represent the 26th Congressional District. Florida.
Thank you. I'd say thank you to both Robert and Patrick for putting this together. I'm Dave Joyce from Ohio 14. I got to admit, the first time that I saw the letter that was sent around about doing this, the meeting room was just down the hallway from my office, and I went down there, and the lights were off and no one was in there, so I thought it was a trick. But slowly but surely, everyone showed up, and everybody shared the same spirit that I told the people from the 14th District of Ohio that I was coming here for. And that is, it's time to put away our red jerseys and put away our blue jerseys and put on the red, white, and blue jerseys and fight for our country. I thank you for the opportunity to do this.
We'd be glad to respond to questions.
For you, Congressman Pittenger, isn't the problem, though, that nobody can ever agree where to cut? I mean, it's one thing to say you want to go big, everything on the table, but then when you get into details, that's when there's all these fractures. So my question to you is, why not in this plan lay out specific areas that would be cut, specific entitlements?
I appreciate your question. I think the key right now, if you're an alcoholic, you need to recognize you have a disease. And right now, there hadn't been real recognition among the leadership. We didn't hear from the president in the State of the Union. We didn't hear the inauguration. We need to be hearing that. This needs to be front and center. And we as a bipartisan group of people and friends, we want to get it out front and center. There are many aspects, many ways. We realize that the trajectory that we're on right now is unsustainable. And we want that, again, to be back in front of the American people. There's plenty of good minds in this Congress and with the president that we can figure out how to do it.
And to follow up on that, will you come out with legislation as a group or specific policy proposals that you want to see enacted to achieve these goals?
That's really not the intent of our group. Our group is say, hey, we have big fiscal issues, and the letter states what we feel like the parameters are that we need to address, and we need to be about the business. And right now, it seems to be, tabled, and that shouldn't be tabled. You want to comment further on that?
No, go ahead.
Do the Democrats on stage agree with the sentiment that the government has a spending problem? And can you endorse any specific reforms to entitlement programs now?
Well, again, I'll echo what Congressman Pittenger said. This is a framework. This is the idea that we are going to come together and begin to kick around some ideas and put everything on the table. And I think that's what's key here. It's not specific legislation, it's not Simpson Bowles, but it's the beginning of that in a bipartisan manner for those of us that are here today. As far as spending, if we're going to get our economic house in order, it's really those three principles that we talk about. Number one, it's addressing spending. We've cut about $1.6 trillion from our budget over the next decade. We need to continue looking at further ways to identify fraud, waste, and abuse, perhaps some other spending that we can find, and that's what we're trying to do here. Number two, it's looking at revenue, and that's addressed in the letter. We need major tax reform. I'm a CPA. I've studied our tax code. It is riddled with loopholes, deductions. It is simply not a good tax code anymore. It needs to be addressed. And number three is economic growth. And the biggest part of this is economic growth, in my opinion. And I don't know, I don't speak for everybody here, but I think we would agree on that. And one of the biggest things holding back growth in our country right now is our own government. Because we cannot provide certainty. We cannot provide any predictability to our businesses. They are sitting on over $1.8 trillion of cash right now, and they're not investing it. And that is because our government cannot come up with a plan. We are governing by crisis, as the president said. This is the last thing we should be doing. We need stability. Yes.
No, not at all. I don't think they're non-exclusive. I mean, I think we have to address fiscal reform in all aspects of our government. I was involved in the state government in North Carolina, and I identified for that state, we had a $20 billion budget. I found $1.5 billion of savings. I would propose something like a Grace Commission, like we had back in the 80s. I don't care what department we're in, and we outline this in the letter in terms of the focus, but we need to be looking at every possible area to find savings. There are savings to be found. And as I stated before, and what Mr. Orszag stated, we can't live and continue on the present trajectory of where we're headed with our entitlements. So I don't think they're exclusive of each other. I think they can be achieved. It depends on how aggressive you are with the plan. I think, and how smart you are, how well you focus on it, and we need real attention to the burgeoning growth of government, and this provides the framework to give attention to that and give focus to that.
Congressman Pittenger again. I'm sorry to pick on you. I'm from WSSC Charlotte. I'm sure you understand.
I love being picked on.
The line here, we must reform the Medicare and Social Security's long-term financial obligations. Is there a way to do that without cutting benefits? And if so, how would you do that without cutting benefits?
Well, again, you have to look. Spending is the issue, okay? You have to look at other options. I'm not here to propose exactly what the program ought to be, but there's plenty of good ideas out there on the table. What we're trying to say is, let's get it back in focus. Where's the crisis? All of a sudden, it's been laid aside. This is a major fiscal crisis, and we're trying to get focus in a bipartisan way to say, there's plenty of good minds here. Let's go focus on the crisis, and we can come up with some bipartisan, agreeable ways that we can address these problems.
So you do believe there is a way to do that without cutting benefits?
I believe that there's a way to achieve it in a reasonable way that will allow us to provide the savings that we need to get.
Should defense be on the table as well? When you talk about going big, should that include defense?
Well, I think that you look at savings everywhere. I don't care in what department it is. There are opportunities for savings. There's just good, prudent management, and I think we need that type of oversight. And that's what I was involved in for 6 years in our state government. I found in every department, in every agency, you have multiple layers of bureaucracies. You have pensions. You have all kind of areas that you need to be addressing.
Could you brief each of your party's leadership about the creation of this group? If so, what did they say?
Sure, they're fully aware of it. He did his, and I
Yes.
did mine.
Yes.
Any advice or input on the group?
As far as our side was concerned, they were excited about it. They all basically said this is the way things used to happen in D.C. That you have to start somewhere. You're a freshman class. It's a big freshman class at that. And you need to start to get to know each other and start to put some ideas on the table. And this is the beginning of that.
Same here. Ours were totally apprised of the mission, and they felt very good about it. They were glad that we're out building relationships, because that's what we've been about.
Anybody want to add anything else? Got some new ones. Did you want to say something?
Yes, sir. Well, we read the letter. The letter is very clear, and I don't want to rewrite the letter. It's in the letter. What we said in the letter is what we want to accomplish. We want to have a more prudent, effective tax policy that will enable us to have a growth economy. The tax policy that we outlined in the letter would close certain loopholes that will allow us to reduce rates and allow our economy then to grow. So that's what the letter states. Sure. I don't see any conflict here in the letter that we've signed at all.
If I might just add to that, lines in the sand are what keep people from listening to each other. And one of the things I think we've all observed is a lot of people yell at each other and no one ever listens to each other. When you draw lines in the sand, it makes it very difficult to listen to one another. And while I might feel strongly about one thing I know, when I first met my friend Tony, I said, I don't expect that you're a wimpy liberal and I'm not a wimpy conservative, but I suspect that there are a lot of things that we have in common. And that if we were to draw some lines in the sand, it makes it very difficult for us to have a relationship. And I think what you're seeing here today are relationships. And hopefully, I think we have an advantage. I think when you guys are just up here sitting there thinking, our advantage is that we're freshmen. That's our advantage over leadership. Our advantage is that we haven't already, picked sides, so to speak. We don't have the broken relationships. So let's start with some good ones.
Hey, Congressman Peters, want to say one word, then we'll do one more question.
Thank you. I guess I'm on Southern California time. I apologize for being late. I want to say, first of all, how pleased I am that Bob Patrick took the time to organize this. And I just offer one hope, one tone of optimism, which is that every one of us who was elected in November heard the same message from the people who elected us, which is to start solving problems and stop fighting for the sake of fighting. Each of us will come here with our own values, and I agree that the lines in the sand is not the way to think of it, but in good faith negotiations, everything's on the table, and then we talk about our values, and we may have some disagreements. But the good thing about this group is that we're all here to try to work together and get things done. We are not afflicted by any kind of bitterness or any kind of hard feelings, and there are enough of us to make a difference. So if we can hold on to that by building relationships, working with each other, I think given our number and the instructions we were sent with, we can have a big difference, and that's why I'm pleased to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.